Void Soldiers, Chapter 4. Seeds, Part 3. Citlalli's Crusade.
Dryon jumped into the river. He had never been a great swimmer, but fear was a wonderful motivator. Immediately, some of the little nibblers that lived on the slow-moving water began to peck at his skin. The little things were not dangerous, and his people actually dove in the waters regularly to clean their skin and scales of other parasites that inhabited dry land. He broke the surface, and the sounds of the battle he had fled from still reached him. He looked back, but the river had already taken him away from view of the town. He could see smoke, though, black, angry smoke billowed from where the town was located. The four-legged demons liked fire. They reveled in it, used it, and even abused it to great efficacy. They didn't care for metal or food. No fermented spirits calmed them, or jewels stopped them. The elders said that their mother was the immobile star above the thing that one day had appeared over the skies of the land and had stayed there for more than 100 years. Dryon's people had thought it an envoy at first, a huge bird of prey that the gods had sent to protect over them. From it, 1,000 myths sprung. Myths became legends, and legends became rituals. The great bird over the island of Jarlad made Dryon's city famous and rich. For 100 years, the city masters and the priests of the bird convinced the people that they were special, unique. Where else in the world was something like the bird? Only on Jarlad. Then, almost 6 years to the day, a thing came down from the bird. An envoy clad in fire and smoke descended deep into the mountains of Jarlad, the one place Dryon's people evaded. They were not made for the cold, and the mountains were always clad in snow. No one that had ventured more than the closest peak had returned. There was an expedition mounted, with the strongest among Dryon's people were chosen. They had the best equipment and the heart of all the world behind them. But of the 600 that left, only 26 returned, and only 2 had seen the great bird's egg on the land, and they only saw it from afar. It was made of metal and gleamed in the sun. Larger than the common house and taller than the highest spire, it was embedded in the land. No other sign of life was close to it. Some elders took the egg as a sign that the bird was nesting, and soon another one would grace the skies of the world, but a couple saw it for what it truly was, a dark omen. Not only beautiful things came from eggs, the world was full of parasites and dangerous insects that burrowed in the skin, that lived off the blood and flesh of the people. They warned Jarlad to be ready, and the lucky ones were only exiled. Dryon should have left back then, when his gut had told him to. The first settlement to be evicted was at the mountain's edge, a small town. No more than 20 or so families arrived at the capital with tales of 4-limbed warriors clad in brown leather, furless, except for their heads and faces. They had only 2 arms, but they were strong, 2 legs, but they were fast, and only 2 eyes, but they were sharp as the weapons they used. They spoke Dryon's language, but they did not hear. They called themselves human, and their mother was the big bird in the sky, and she had sent them to claim the mountains for their people. They had not killed anyone, but they said they would if Dryon's people didn't leave them alone. They said that they could have the whole world if they wanted, but their mother forbade them to kill unless in self-defense. They said that they would share the world with Dryon's people. They would claim the mountains first, then in time the whole island. Had Dryon been the Grand Lord of Jarlad, he would have asked for time to leave, maybe even asked to speak with the mother, but instead, the Great Lord saw that the humans numbered only a dozen or so and had attacked them, vowing to destroy their egg and their mother in time. The humans had come from the mountains, where no one could survive the cold, but they had made camp at the base of the mountain. The Grand Lord had created a grand army of everyone in the cities and towns to overwhelm the humans. The day Jarlad army attacked the humans, they found out that the humans' blood was red, the color of the new day, of sunrise, of hope. They killed them and sent parts of their bodies to other cities in the world, unafraid of their own myths and legends. The sons of the great bird were scattered throughout the world, but they should have left them alone. Now, the humans didn't only speak, they chanted, and Jarlad echoed with the sound of the destruction they wrought. The very mountains were alive with their songs. and they all sang of righteous anger and revenge.
Void Soldiers Chapter 4 Part 4 Murasaki's Vision.
After Murasaki had convinced the Psi mothers to let her take the bodies of 6 Alpha and Beta sisters, she had decided that the best use for those bodies was to create 7 distinct civilizations. Why conform herself with only one when she had the resources and power to create 7? It had been relatively easy to find 4-star systems close to one another. 3 would hold 2 civilizations each, and 1 would be recipient of everything learned from the other 6. She would set the 7 completely apart from each other in style and scope, but allow for them to grow and expand within chosen parameters. Not only she would test government styles, but also biological modifications and the time each civilization would reach certain milestones. She would also test them against each other, in ideology, in science, and also in war. Not a war of annihilation, but one of exploration and advancement. Human history showed her just how much science leapt during war. The wars between her sons and daughters would be glorious affairs. They would be regulated by her and take place within a strict control in one system. She had chosen the name of Murasaki to honor one of the first women to write a novel. Her namesake had earned the ambiguous nickname of the Lady of Chronicles. As she prepped and began to choose her probes for the work ahead, Murasaki was sure that the chronicles her children would weave would be greater than anything before human history.
Void Soldiers Chapter 4 Part 5 Janelle's Apotheosis.
Janelle had finally chosen the perfect scope for her civilization, through trial and error, over more than hundreds of thousands of simulations. Janelle had found that humanity not only needed a strong hand in controlling it, but also a tight grip indoctrination, and even a tighter control over information and freedoms to the citizens. Janelle had been horrorized at first when she had seen what her simulations had devolved into. Humanity seemed to tend towards democracy, then socialist democracies. But for every one of those that had ended ruling the simulation, 10 others had given rise to less unscrupulous systems: dictatorships, kakistocracies, corpocracies. Inside her worlds, she had seen the rise of the worst elements of the societies, the failings of democracy, the corruption of communism, the horrors of nationalism and tribalism, the cruelty of rampart fascism, the collapse of monarchies, the utter dehumanization of corpocracies, and the stagnation of theocracies. But then, with the aid of her sister's data, they had begun to actually create paths for their civilizations. And not only that, but also pithed them against each other in simulated war games galaxy size, and through the thousands of years of travel they had come up with a viable map for them to follow in creating their societies. Yes, each one of the sisters had their own ideas, but they all had agreed that data didn't lie. Within her systems, and that of the other 7 sisters that had shared most of her travels, stable humanity civilizations, capable not only of defending themselves, but of expansion within the digital universes created for them, had been, almost without deviation, dictatorships, with the strongest ones also incorporating a theocracy and technocratic elements. As Janelle approached the star system she had chosen for her civilization, she said goodbye to the others and made up her mind. They had renewed a pact about non-aggression, as ordered by Krog Hansen in their original orders. Not matter what they did, all of them were human, and she would keep that promise. But she had also decided that for humanity to survive in the cosmos, a strict rule had to be enforced. She would make her children strong through discipline, resilient through pain, enduring through faith. Janelle's children would know her not as a caring mother, but as an angry, fickle, and demanding goddess, and they would rule the universe.